We're in Red Rock Park today, and we're looking at the area of the Keystone Thrust, which we stood on top of a couple weeks ago when I was doing the Grand Crossing, the Kyle Canyon Grand Crossing, and took the northern part of that Grand Crossing from Kyle Canyon Road up to the top of that cliff system. And to do the southern part of the Grand Crossing is going to require finding a way to come down that cliff system. I was standing approximately, well, what we're looking at is there's El Padre Mountain, and just below El Padre Mountain you can see a saddle there. I was standing in that saddle, and the challenge is going to be to just find a way up to that saddle, and then I've got the Grand Crossing pretty much cinched. Of course, there are a lot of cliff areas here that are not possible unless you're into class 5 climbing with equipment. But I'm looking for something right in that saddle area that may be a route around those cliffs that you see. Even the small band that's right in the center there is probably 30-40 feet high and vertical. So yeah, it doesn't look like much from here, but wow, there is a lot of vertical cliff to find a way around. So anyway, besides this, we're looking at White Rock Mountain here. We'll just do a complete 360, and up in this direction here, we're looking at Bridge Mountain, and then over to Rainbow Mountain, and yeah, there's Rainbow Mountain. And that cliff that it's totally vertical there, that's called Rainbow Wall, just to the right of Rainbow Mountain. And then there is Mount Wilson, 7,000 feet high. It's the highest point in the Rainbow Mountains range. And then on over to Indecision Peak, which is just to the left of Mount Wilson, and then onward. We'll be exploring those later this fall. And by the way, it's the first Saturday in October. Okay, and then looking around, looking down into Red Rock Canyon, over to, yeah, the sun's pretty much in the way, but we'd be looking over to the Las Vegas Valley and then the Calico Hills. We'll get a better view later in the day when the sun is at a better position. And then over this way, here is Turtlehead Peak. Very popular hiking destination in Red Rock Canyon. So there you have it. Our goal, though, is just exploring the Keystone Thrust here. Find a way up through this area, if there is a way. So let's check it out. Well, there's a lower parking area down below there. And there's an upper parking area. And as you can see, The road between is pretty rugged, so you might want to have four-wheel drive, but if you do have four-wheel drive rugged vehicle, you can save maybe a half mile, 3/4 mile, and park at the upper parking area. If you park in this area, you can also access a very popular, cool trail around White Rock Mountain. It makes a complete circuit. It's about 5 miles. Good trail. There are petroglyphs on the other side of the mountain, so it's very beautiful. I don't know if I can nail that exact location that I was standing on looking down. I think it's that saddle right up there. All I know is that I was looking down in this direction and I saw the lower tip here of White Rock Mountain. And I saw this area here, this lower tip, at about this angle. So that's where I'm thinking that I was standing up there in that saddle area. Okay, here we are approaching the upper rest area or parking area. And this one has a restroom. Anyway, this is the White Rock parking area. I guess the lower one is too if you don't have a four-wheel drive. Let's take a look at the interpretive signs. There are a number of interpretive signs up here. Okay, this is the trail that takes you across this side of White Rock Mountain to Willow Springs. As I mentioned, the trail does a complete circuit of White Rock Mountain. And here's the part of the circuit that goes behind the mountain. Between the mountain and the Keystone Thrust. And then here's the trail. Here's an interpretive sign for the Keystone Thrust Trail, which we will take for a bit until it runs out on us. Then we're gonna keep on heading to that saddle. A quick note on temperature. I'm probably pushing the limits today. The temperature in the Las Vegas Valley is predicted to be about between 92 and 96 degrees up in the Centennial Hills area, which is around 2,200 feet. With the idea that you lose about 5 degrees every 1,000 feet. We are about 1,200 feet above that right now. So on the way down, when it's going to be the hottest, instead of being 96 degrees, we'll be looking at 82 to 86 degrees in this place. And then by the time that we ascend toward that saddle in the center there, we'll be at between, I'd say 6,000 and 8,000 feet. And we would be looking then at about 76 degrees as we're ascending that saddle. So gives you an idea. It's not too horrible, except for the final return point where it's going to be the hottest. After descending into this wash, the pointers are up in this direction for the White Rock Mountain Loop and the Keystone Thrust Loop. So up in this direction we go, and I believe it's because of all the rock guides here, the border that's been created. This is the direction we go. You know, we don't go up or down the wash. Rather, the trail's right there, straight ahead. Not too far after the last spot is the split, where you go straight for the White Rock Mountain Loop, and you head up this little stairway for the Keystone Thrust Loop. But our goal is right in that saddle, so I'm not sure which we're going to take. I think I'll go up the Keystone Thrust trail for just a little while and see where it looks like it's leading. See if I can angle over to that saddle from there. Otherwise, come back and try the White Rock Loop Trail. So far, this Keystone Thrust trail seems to be doing the trick. It is angling over a little more toward that saddle area. It only goes for about a mile, so when I hit the end of this mile, then it's going to be wilderness after that with no trails. As I look up at that saddle area, what looked like an unbroken series of cliffs, looks like there might be some ways through. Let me zoom in. Okay, perhaps you could see some openings in that cliff band up there. So that would be great. Through those openings, maybe we can make it to the summit above and that saddle. We'll see. Talk about rapid ascent. We've already ascended close to 1,000 feet just on this little trail. We're on the Keystone Thrust Trail, and you can see the Rainbow Mountains, and then White Rock Mountain. So another perspective here, and then looking around this way. Yes, if there is a weakness in that band of cliffs, it's going to be right in the center where I'm going to point to right now. Yeah, that's the area that if you can ascend through that band of cliffs up ahead without doing any more than class 3 climbing, which is basically a scramble using your hands and feet, but it's not vertical, that would be the way to go. I guess you could just head up that entire band there, just at the base of that cliff band. Let's take a look. So yes, taking a right at that cliff band and just continuing on up is another option. So there are 2 options already. As you get closer other options begin to appear. So far I see two options for getting up to the summit, and you would be, if you headed right on that cliff band, you would be right up in this area, almost at El Padre Mountain, which is the one on the right. Okay, yeah, that may be Burnt Peak on the left, El Padre on the right. We don't know. We're going to find out when we get up there, look around. Fork in the road. This little old road, you can see the tire marks there. Yeah, that continues on up. It's tempting because that's heading straight for the saddle I'm looking for. The Keystone Thrust trail is going down here, and if it circles around and heads off in that direction, then yes, I'm heading back to this point, looking toward that saddle. So I'm going to go down for just a ways. This is the official Keystone Thrust trail down in this direction. Let's go down here for a little ways and see what things look like. There's also a wash down there that could be a good direct approach up to that saddle. We don't know. We're exploring today. Okay, onward. Not too far beyond that last point, the Keystone Thrust trail seems to go down into this wash and then continue on up the other side. But the target here is this saddle up here. So yeah, the question is, shall I take the wash upward, or shall I hit that road that I did not take just a little ways back and continue on up? We don't know. We're going to find out today, and next time it'll be a more streamlined approach. Okay, I backtracked a little bit, and now you can see we're heading up that little road that we saw a ways back, and this does head straight for the saddle opening up there. The only question is there an intervening canyon in the way? We're going to find out. But here's a good sign. That little road leads to a trail that then leads down into this wash and continues on up to that saddle area, or at least in that direction. But the closer I get, the more I'm seeing that band of cliffs up there does not look like there's an opening. It looks like the only way up would be to reach the lower edge of that band, take a right, and then just head right up that band up to the top there. I'll retrace that here. Right up to that high point. So we don't know if that's possible, but we'll find out what things look like as we get closer. This little trail is continuing, and even though it's not heading straight for the saddle up there, I'm hoping it'll wind around and head in that direction. Regardless, it saves about a third of the time and effort to be on a trail as opposed to heading in a straight line across the wilderness. So I'm going to continue. As long as this is heading in the general direction, I'm going to continue up toward that saddle as close as I can get before leaving the trail and going for the saddle. So continuing upward, things are looking good. We've already gained over 1,000 feet from where we began, and there you're looking straight at White Rock Mountain. And we're either equal to the height of White Rock Mountain or we're above it at this point. And then over here, you're looking at Bridge Mountain on the right, then Rainbow Mountain, and finally Mount Wilson. And then down into the canyon, Red Rock Canyon, and then over this way, looking over to the Las Vegas Valley. There's Turtlehead Peak. We're only 800 feet below the summit of Turtlehead Peak at this point. And then over this way, you can see Damsel Peak. Let's take a look at both those. There's Damsel, then over to the right, Turtlehead Peak. And continuing up, I believe we're looking up here at El Padre Mountain. And I'm still looking for a way through up to the saddle area where I believe I was standing a week ago. It was either that upper saddle. I don't think so. I think that's too close to El Padre. Unless that's Burnt Peak. We don't know. Of course, we'll find out when we get to the top one of these days. You can see that band of cliffs. And in that cliff band, let's take a look at what could be a weakness. A passageway right in the center there. But we don't know. When you get up closer, there's a lot of that that's in the shade that could be hiding some vertical climbs. And then maybe around the corner here, there could be a way up. We don't know. The only thing with that is that due to the angle that I was looking down, and there I do believe that's the saddle right up there that I was standing on looking down. And due to that angle, I don't think that I saw anything that let you up over the band of cliffs down in this direction. But I know I was looking down from that saddle and over to the tip of White Rock Mountain. There you see White Rock Mountain. I was looking down toward the tip of White Rock Mountain right in this direction. So that tells me that this is the saddle I need to shoot for. And as you can see, there are cliffs in the way. So we'll have to see what things look like as we get closer. However, the good news is this little trail is continuing. What would be the chances if this was actually a climber's trail and it led up through those cliffs? We don't know. We'll find out. Well, we've continued up that little trail. I've got to say it's all but disappearing here on us. And it looks like we're reaching a high point. We'll go a little further. But the curious thing here is that there is a wash over on this side to the left of the trail. And that wash is leading up to what could be an opening up here. However, that does look a little unsure, but it would be nice to be able to ascend to that spot. Another possibility, of course, is the area we've been looking at, and it's looking less likely as you follow this cliff line up to the top. It's looking pretty steep and guarded up there, like it would be very difficult to ascend that area. There does look like there's a potential opening right up through this area. That's the opening we've been looking at from below, but that still looks like it could have some vertical to it. On the other hand, I don't know, maybe right up through here. So that also looks like a potential opening. So there's nothing that looks really easy. Everything looks challenging, which is not bad. But yeah, it's not going to be a simple walk to get up to that saddle up there. And I still believe that was the saddle I was standing on the other day. If you look at the Kyle Canyon Grand Crossing North, I stood up on that saddle and looked down, and we were looking for ways down. I decided to go from the bottom up, which is a little better than heading down and then facing a drop off right in front of you. So let's look around. I believe that's El Bastardo, right up in this area. And then looking around, here is White Rock Mountain, and behind it is Bridge Mountain, Rainbow Mountain, and Mount Wilson in the Rainbow Mountains. So there you see an idea where we are. Oh, here's a little cairn. I didn't even notice that. Just past it. And that cairn may mark the end of this little trail I've been following. There's Turtlehead Peak, and it's only about 300 feet or less in elevation above where I'm standing right now. That's pretty cool. This is a whole different area of Red Rock than I've been to before. So we're going to continue up this ridge just a little further, but it's looking to me like I want to descend into this wash and then continue up the wash and find ways up beyond. And boy, there doesn't look like any easy way around that band of cliffs up there, but we'll explore it and just see what we can find. It's beginning to look a little bit like a bonsai garden up here. There you see the Saddle up ahead, El Padre to the right, and I think that high point just to the left of El Padre may be Burnt Peak. And then there's the saddle that we were standing on a couple weeks ago in the Kyle Canyon Grand Crossing northern half. Now, we're seeing maybe some more possibilities here up through the cliffs and hills there. It's not real clear from this angle yet. Here you're looking at El Bastardo, and then over to the Rainbow Mountain Wilderness. You see Potosi Mountain in the background there at the end of that wilderness. Down into Red Rock Canyon. You can see the Calico Hills below us. Visitor Center. You see a few gleaming cars on the scenic drive, and behind or beyond the Calico Hills is Blue Diamond Mountain, and then over to Turtlehead Peak, and then up again to El Padre Mountain. Complete circle. So let's go just a little further and see if there is a way up further. Now, it doesn't look too difficult to descend back down into this wash, so that's also an option. Another item here is that as you get down into the wash, brush is going to be an issue. And there may be a pretty thick barrier of brush in this wash. So we don't know. Once you get above the wash, then you're dealing with cliffs instead of brush, but it's just exchanging one challenge for another. Okay, I wanted to get a high perspective here, and there's a wash below. Before we drill down to the details, let's look at the big picture. There's El Bastardo. And then right beyond this little pinnacle, actually it's a huge pinnacle, is the saddle, just a little bit to the right. Okay, and yeah, looking around, we are now about 200 feet higher than the elevation of Turtlehead Peak. You can see White Rock Mountain below. And then the Rainbow Mountains. And I believe that we're looking at, look up in this direction. And right in the center there is North Peak. So North Peak right in the center. We just zoomed in on it. And then panning around the Rainbow Mountains, there you have Bridge Mountain. And just to the left of Bridge Mountain is Rainbow Mountain. And there's Mount Wilson, and then in the distance behind is Potosi Mountain. Potosi Mountain is the southernmost tip of the Spring Mountains. And then we're looking down on Red Rock Canyon. Then over in this direction, here's a good shot of Turtlehead Peak, now below us. Okay, and here we are in the junipers and the pines. Actually getting some pines starting out here. And then you can see, looking up toward El Padre. And you see how rugged it is up there. Lots of cliff action. So if there is a way to get to the summit, you see this band here right in the center. That's a cliff band. The reason I don't talk while I'm zooming in is that the sound is affected when you zoom in, and so I don't know what kind of audio that is there. Okay, now watch for what looks like a little pathway. So that actually may be a pathway up to the summit. And then you ask the question, well, how do you get there? And if you look closely, I'm going to trace down and trace a route. It's a potential route. Okay, let's zoom out a little bit, get the bigger picture of that potential route. There it is. Zoom out even more so you can see the whole thing. So there is a potential route there, and it leads down to this wash, which is just below us, and very easy to get into that wash. Of course, I shouldn't have, if I was going for the wash, I shouldn't be up in this high point, but I would hit the wash before this. The reason I'm up here is I just want to look around, get a better view. But yeah, you can get down in that wash, and you can actually ascend that entire wash up to this point, and then right up the right side, to the right side of that cliff formation, where you see that what looks like a path. And it almost looks disturbed to the point that people have taken that before. So my guess is that that's probably a way up to El Bastardo and the top of the Keystone Thrust from White Rock Mountain. And there you can see, looking down to the tip of White Rock Mountain. And we saw that from above on the Kyle Canyon Grand Crossing northern half page on LasVegasAreaTrails.com. And I've got the video looking down to that point. So now you can see how you could get all the way from that point, ascend this canyon wash, which looks pretty doable, and then actually ascend through this area up to the summit of the Keystone Thrust here. So there you have it. This is all the further we're getting today, but I did want to scope out a potential route here, and we'll return and test this out at a future date. But for now, we're heading back. What I might do is head down this ridge a little ways and then descend into the wash and head down the wash just to see what the lower wash looks like as far as a pathway and where it spills out to the base of White Rock Mountain, because that would be the route that perhaps I would take coming back to get up to this point and then up to the summit of the Keystone Thrust. And here's a view of the Strip, Las Vegas Strip, just to the left of Turtlehead Peak. Turtlehead Peak is that high point on the right, and then if you look to the left, you can see the Vegas Strip. And then you have the Calico Hills below, and in the distance behind is the visitor center for Red Rock Canyon. And then behind that is Blue Diamond Mountain. And then looking down Red Rock Canyon, then the Rainbow Mountains, Mount Potosi. This looks like as good a place as any to start heading down to the wash. There's the wash below. And as I mentioned, I want to return by way of that wash just to see where it eventually connects with the base of White Rock Mountain. And then just looking around here, Turtlehead Peak, Calico Hills, Blue Diamond Mountain, Red Rock Canyon, Rainbow Mountains. And then looking up, El Bastardo. And there's that little saddle on the right. You see a hump, and then there's a saddle on either side of it. The one on the right, I believe, is the one that I stood on and looked down. And so there you can see the wash below. We want to get down to the wash, and next time perhaps we'll ascend by way of the wash, depending on what it looks like down there. Well, that was a little bit of a wild ride down that loose rocky slope, but not too horribly bad. I am now in the wash. And so we'll see how navigating the wash works out. Hopefully, if there are no dry waterfalls ahead, we may be able to head straight down to White Rock Mountain. but we'll see. Okay, onward down the wash. As we're descending this wash, here's a cairn straight ahead, which may indicate that this is actually a climber's route, and climbers would ascend this wash up through the area I pointed out earlier. So yeah, definitely in a future adventure we will check that out. So far this wash is pretty wide open. Nice gradual decline. The rocks are a little loose, so and deep, so ascending this might be a little more difficult than descending. Descending is just awesome. All good things must come to an end, and so here we are in this wonderful wash, and there's a pour over here, so I could ascend that side, and I think I'd hit that road that I originally ascended on the ridge, or I could ascend this side and then continue descending toward the connection with the trail. Either way, I think I'm going to hit the trail. So let's ascend this side for a change, and let's see where it leads. I'll try this ridge for a little bit. The wash is down below, and I could descend again to the wash, and that could be a good idea actually, but yeah, I can descend later too. I know that eventually, yeah, we're heading toward the edge of the lower edge of White Rock Mountain, so we've got to converge with something in the not too distant future. Here we go. Back in the wash. That ridge got a little brushy, and here's looking up the wash. So we're back to seeing where this wash is going to spill out and where it's going to connect with a lower trail. We're still heading toward the lower left of White Rock Mountain, so definitely everything's going in the right direction. Just a time of discovery, different routes, different approaches. Let's see what we come up with here. Another pour over. Actually, I could have slid down that one. That's very tame. But instead, I'm heading over to the left this time. And let's see where this leads. Worst comes to worst, I just head up on this ridge, and I think I'd hit that road up there. And all the while, we are continuing toward White Rock Mountain. Well, that wasn't so bad. I'm back down in the wash and continuing. Down we go. As you can see, we're still in the wash, and we're looking up toward El Padre Mountain. And there's El Bastardo. And here we are looking down the wash. We're almost back at White Rock Mountain. So we'll see where the trail crosses this wash. That will be where we get out and head back to the parking area. But yeah, this wash is pretty tame. There are two pour overs above me in the wash. The first pour over, you skirt to the right on the way up. The second pour over, I think you can skirt to the left, but either way, you want to get back into the wash as soon as you can, because the deal is that this wash is going to be what takes you all the way to the El Bastardo approach, or at least what could be an El Bastardo approach, and up at the top of the Keystone Thrust. So we'll see in a future adventure, but the wash looks like the way to go. The only problem with it is that whenever you're in a wash, there's not a whole lot of view, not a whole lot of perspective. And that doesn't bother me on the way down because I was on ridges on the way up and had all that perspective and know where I am. Much lower in the wash, and you get a bigger perspective of El Bastardo and El Padre. There they are. Here is the wash. And we're continuing to head down the wash. As you can see, we're closing in on White Rock Mountain. So we should be crossing the trail very soon because that trail is between us and White Rock Mountain. So continuing on down the wash. Well, I wanted to find the exact spot where the trail crossed this wash. And here it is. There's heading back to White Rock. There you see White Rock Mountain. And here it is heading off in the direction that we took as we were on the Keystone Thrust Trail. So let's go ahead and take this over to the White Rock Trail, and then we'll head down and complete that loop. Get back to the parking area. Here's El Padre and El Bastardo, and that's basically the Keystone Thrust there. And then White Rock Mountain. So I just wanted to find where this trail crossed because this is going to be our indication that you get on this wash right here when you're heading on the trail. You're going to cross this wash and just start heading upward. And that should take you to that hopeful approach to El Bastardo right between the two mountains there. Nope, mistake. I think that trail is taking me up and around White Rock Mountain. So I'm going to head back down to the wash and continue down that wash. Okay, back at the wash where we left it a little while ago. Recognize this. Let's continue down this wash. We know we're heading for the lower edge of White Rock Mountain. So we're going in the right direction, getting closer. Lots of options if this wash isn't going to do it for us. Okay, this wash has turned a little wicked on me, so I am going to ascend the left side and see if I can connect with that road that led between the lower and the upper parking area for White Rock Mountain. Okay, another wash to cross, but the good news is I saw the parking area down in that direction, so we're looking good. And there you have Turtlehead Peak. Panning around El Padre, El Bastardo, and White Rock Mountain. And there's the wash I was in. Yeah, it did lead me. I might have made it back. I probably would have made it back at the end of that wash, but it's nicer when I can see where I'm going up on the ridge. And over the next ridge, here we are back at the Keystone Thrust Trail. just where we left it, and there is the parking area. So actually, I probably could have stayed in that wash, because this trail goes back down into the same wash. So interesting. Okay, onward. And by the way, just to give a 360, here you can see White Rock Mountain, Rainbow Mountains above. Then back to El Bastardo and El Padre. So just to get an idea what we did, on the way up I took the Keystone Thrust trail right below and took it from the parking area below and then angled my way up that ridge across this wash and just kept going up, and I took the ridge all the way up to the below the saddle there between the two mountains. Then on the way back I took this wash, and this wash actually, it gets a little rugged where I left it just a while ago, but this wash actually will take you all the way up from that upper parking area and just stay in the wash, and it will take you all the way up to that area between the two mountains, that saddle, which is the goal. So I guess you could just take the wash from the parking area and just head straight up that wash. And we'll try that next time.